Hi, my name is John, and this is Business Update. In this week's episode, we'll be talking about the recent news that we've been hearing regarding the gaming industry, wherein uh, gaming companies or platforms, in this case, like Microsoft, has making a lot of headway in terms of acquiring a lot of uh, gaming publishers to bolster their lineup in terms of gaining traction in their market and competing, doing a better job than their competitors. In this case, obviously, that's Sony. Well, today, Sony is making a big splash of sorts in terms of acquiring a company that is known to produce Destiny, the game. If you have played that game, I haven't played myself personally, but it's a very popular game here. Anyway, so let's take a closer look here. According to the article at GameIndustry.biz, Sony is buying Bungie for the measly sum of $3.6 billion. So compare that to the acquisitions of Microsoft on Bethesda and Activision Blizzard, it pales in comparison here. But let's take a closer look here regardless. Okay, so according to the article here, the Destiny studio will remain multi-platform, able to push, self-publish, and reach players wherever they choose to play. And I think the main strategy here for Sony here, it's a big business that makes a lot of money for for Bungie here, and obviously since it's acquired now by Sony, it's going to make them a lot of money. Now, should they make it exclusive? Should they tamper what makes Bungie successful in their development here? Obviously, maintaining the status quo should be the best bet here. And but the question here is this strategy separate to what's Microsoft's doing here? I'd like to think that it's totally different, because if Sony is concerned with what Microsoft is doing, which is pretty remarkable if you consider the 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 model that they're following with in terms of subscription base, meaning you pay a minimal fee of 10 to 15 bucks for a monthly subscription, and you get to play a plethora of games. Now, I may not be in that boat, but I'm subscribed to Netflix, so that's another streaming services that they offer. But if it's to your liking, if you're gamers or addicted to gaming, then it makes sense, or the value that it generates from subscribing to to Xbox Game Pass. Now, obviously, Sony doesn't have that similar offerings. They have a subscription base, but they offer two games at a time, so it's not similar to it. That's why it makes a differentiation very clear and excuse me, very clear in terms of which has the better offering. Now, obviously, Sony is still betting on their exclusive games that people will still follow and play on their platform here. Anyway, going to the article here, according to Sony Interactive Entertainment today, the announced deal to acquire Bungie at less than $4 billion, so that they can consolidate the deals with regards to the industry. Obviously, other companies have done the same with Microsoft that we just mentioned earlier. Anyway, so Bungie mentioned that the company mentioned that Bungie will still be a independent subsidiary, meaning even though it's owned by Sony now, but it's still a will be separate from the main company, so that they can do what they're good at or best at, which is producing Destiny. And I'm sure a lot of gamers are looking forward to the sequel, which is Destiny 2. And obviously, being a multi-platform game brings in a lot of cash revenue for the company, and I think that's what Sony's looking at too. And but I think they need to do a lot more in terms of being competitive, especially in the market. And obviously, in the long run, if things were to remain the same in terms of how Microsoft is acquiring companies left and right, and Sony is still remaining standing pat in terms of their acquisitions, mini acquisitions, so to speak, here can have a you can consider a long term impact for the company itself, which is even I, as a part time gamer, I bought all the iteration of all their PlayStation. Now, would I buy the PS5 over the Xbox Series X? I'm still considering about it. So obviously, if Sony is continuing on this trajectory that only have a certain types of games that I'm be playing, and then if you look at the other platform, it makes it a compelling case to why not just jump ship, if that's the case here. But anyway, going back to the article here. Now, according to the Sony Interactive CEO of Jim Ryan, he mentions that we've had a strong partnership with Bungie since the inception of Destiny's franchise, and I couldn't be more thrilled to officially welcome to the studio of the PlayStation family. Now, what's interesting about Bungie is they used to be under the umbrella of Microsoft, which, for those who are not familiar, produced Halo. Let me see here, which Halo did they produce here? I think it's Halo 3. I might be wrong, but they produced for quite some time. The early parts they had under the Microsoft banner producing Halo, which is one of the most popular RPG first person shooter for the Xbox platform here. So and then what happened there is they went independent, and that's when they created Destiny after the not after the fact, but they were able to create Destiny and become so popular that they went independent and left the Microsoft platform as a whole. And what's interesting here, obviously the success that they have generated, Sony has been looking into them for quite some time in terms of how popular they are in not just in the Xbox console but also the PlayStation and in the PC. So if all platforms are generating significant revenue for the company, obviously if you're Sony, it just makes sense for them to acquire it. But the question here is it enough to stave off what the competitors is doing in terms of providing better value for the gamers itself? Anyway, let's get back to the article here. He also mentions that this is an important step in our strategy to expand the reach of PlayStation to a much wider audience. We understand how vital Bungie's community is to the studio and look forward to supporting them as they remain independent and continue to grow. Like Bungie, our community is the core of PlayStation's DNA, and our shared passion for the gamer and building the best place to play will now evolve even further. Now, obviously, investing in or acquiring Bungie here is pretty significant here. But still, I mean, for my taste here, it's still it's a good starting point, but it shouldn't be the only strategy that they're looking at too. That they should look at bigger, known IPs, or not just big IPs, but also invest in small IPs. I think it's about a war of attrition if you think about it, competing with Microsoft versus Sony here. So it's either you have an exclusivity, you own those companies, or which what they do eventually, if it's a very popular game, they even offer cross-platform, which I was surprised when PlayStation was very vehement at the beginning that all the games that you play at Sony's PlayStation console is only exclusive to their platform. But if you start allowing them to cross borders to other platforms, then what's the purpose of having an exclusivity here? Or why even lock yourselves to a consoles, whether it's PlayStation or PC or even or an Xbox here? But let's see here if Sony's strategy will pan out here. But I think there's a lot of room for improvement, and I think hopefully their executives, their decision makers are taking note of what's happening here, and obviously not just dwell on their current success, even though they've been selling a lot of consoles compared to the PS5, compared to the Xbox Series X. But at the end of the day, it's not just about the consoles that you need to sell, it's all about the games. And if the games are not tremendous to keep the gamers hooked to your platform, then eventually, to similar to how how Nintendo was the market leader way back in the 80s and 90s, and then when Sony came into the market, they just wasted all that opportunities, and they're having a hard time catching up, and now they're just relegated to number 3 in the console wars, and obviously now it's near impossible for them to even catch up to Microsoft's Xbox or even Sony's PlayStation here. Anyway, so let's read further. So Parsons said that according to Sony Interactive Entertainment supported the studio's dual goals of making generation-spanning entertainment while staying creatively independent. Now, obviously, giving them autonomy makes sense, because if what they're doing is successful, why stop them or meddle with it? Because with good intentions, if decision making like the current CEO were to just meddle in and try to make some improvements here, uh, could be disastrous in the long run here, right? You want to make sure that you continue to support them in any shape or form, that if the company needs the support, then that's the only time you step in. But other than that, leave it be. Don't what do you call this, don't disturb don't rock the boat, so to speak, right? But anyway, is it enough to convince, is it enough for Sony what they're doing? Obviously, I think, for my opinion, it's not enough, and they need to do a lot, especially how they offer their subscription base. I think the PlayStation Plus, I've experienced it for a few months, but thinking about it, maybe I should consider owning an Xbox console versus a PS5 in the future. And there's also the Steam Deck that's coming, hopefully coming this year, if not next year, that I think is going to be a game changer, especially how it's going to affect the Nintendo Switch sales here. Because if Steam Deck can provide what they are offering in terms of the reviews and the previews that the many critics are reviewing, I think it's going to be a game changer in terms of being able to play PC games in portable mode. I think that's why Nintendo Switch is a very successful console. But the games that they're offering is very limited, and in terms of the gaming experience, especially for the online experience, is somewhat a paltry. Can't imagine charging for 15, 20, 40, or even $50 to subscribe for a very old library, not including they've had a plethora of games way back from the Nintendo NES games to SNES to N64. Then you have the Wii games, all the way before it reached the Switch, right? So if they were to offer that, I think that would be tremendous for the gaming community. Especially, I would appreciate, especially they have a lot of games that they produce, right? And I think the customers, the gamers, should be allowed to be able to access it. And if they don't do that, even if they're selling hundreds of millions of units, well, that will be a wasted opportunity, because they could have sold even more than that. Maybe, let's say, 200 million. Who's to say, break the all-time record of which is held by the PlayStation 2, which I think around 150 million units sold. And resting on your laurels can be a downgrade to your future. But that's just my opinion, and we'll see how things pan out for Sony, for Nintendo, and even for Microsoft here. Anyway, I think that concludes our discussion for this week, and keep you updated with the goings on with not just the gaming community here, and with everything else that we've discussed in our previous discussions during our Business Focus Live events. Anyway, if you have any questions, I'll leave the link in the description below for the articles that I just mentioned here or discussed here. And leave your comments down below if you have any questions, and I'll try to get back to you as soon as possible. Anyway, by the time this video airs, it's already New Year, Chinese New Year. So happy Chinese New Year to everyone. Stay safe and take care. So I'll see you again next Wednesday, same time. I won't say same time, same channel. Take care to everyone. Stay safe.